In the previous lectures, we introduced images, but in this lecture, we'll go further to explain how to use images and how to do very exciting things with images in our HTML file. What I have here are different file formats and abbreviations for different types of images. So the first we have is the APNG, or the Animated Portable Network Graphics, or .apng, the GIF, which is the graphics interchange format, the ICO, Microsoft Icon, JPEG, PNG, and the SVG, the scalable vector graphics. So these are different formats which we can find images, and they all come in different fonts. So I've opened my Visual Studio here and created the file, the HTML file images.html. So today we'll be discussing different ways of embedding an image in our HTML web page. So the first thing we're going to do is to declare our doc type and every other thing we need. So set the title of our web page to Once we have done that, the very first thing we want to do is to embed a background image in our body element. So to do this, there are so many ways to do this. I'll show you how it's done. First, let's try to use a style element in the head tag. Say body. You will note that each time we want to style the element, any element, we'll call the element name and then an opening and a closing parenthesis. This is the format for CSS. We haven't really discussed this because we have reserved a section for CSS. So when we get to CSS, we are going to properly understand how this works. So the first thing we have to do is to set a background image for the body element. So just type in background image. So choose the URL option, the URL value. Then you can now set the image you want. In this case, if you go to the folder where we have our images, HTML images, you see a list of images here. So we are going to use our image1_small.jpg. So we can simply type in the name of that image here since it's in the same folder, image1_small.jpg. So you can see it here. The Visual Studio Code has already brought it out as an option. Just press enter, and that is all. Let us save the file and view in our browser. So what we can find here is our image, the minion image. You see that the minion image repeats itself across the entire web page. So it is important to know that background images in an HTML element can be set using the style attribute. We have said that before. It is important to note that this works on the body element alone. So to do this, we just set the background image and set the uniform resource locator to where the image is stored. So by default, the image will repeat itself through the width and breadth of the containing element. Now we can alter this by altering the background repeat property using the style attribute. So let's go back to our Visual Studio Code. We have our Visual Studio Code here. Like I said, we'll set the background repeat property. So set it to no repeat. When you set the value of the background repeat property to no repeat, it prevents the image from repeating itself across the width and breadth of the viewport. So let's save this and see how it looks on our browser. You can see that the image is no longer repeated across the width of the page. So when we resize, we just have the image in there. Notice that when we try to reduce the size of the viewport, it stops at the width of the image, but the height does not. I'm pointing this out to you for a particular reason. So we can actually make this single image to spread across or to stretch across the entire viewport. This is done using the background size attribute, so the background size property. So we can set the background size to cover. So actually there are two ways to do this. Let us look at how to do it using the background size attribute being set to cover. So we have background. I say cover. Save. And let's refresh our web page. We can see that the image stretches across the entire viewport, but some parts of the image has been truncated. The legs have been truncated. Let's resize this. So when we resize, we get the actual size. As we are spreading the image across the viewport, we can see that the image keeps being truncated by the visible part of the viewport. This may not be acceptable in some cases, because when we zoom to the to maximum, the legs of the minions have been cut off. So to do this, we can set the background size to 100%. So we set the background size to 100% by 100%. Let's see what happens to the image. Save the file and refresh your browser. Sorry, this is not right. Extra property that we need to set is the background attachment property. You notice when we didn't do that, when you view it on your browser, the image is compressed. You cannot actually see the exact size of the image. So to correct this, we set the background attachment property to fixed. Save the file and let's view. Refresh the page and let's see how it works. Yes. So notice that when you reduce the size of the viewport, the image continually adjusts to the aspect ratio of the viewport, unlike when we use the background property, when we set the background size property to cover.